Welcome to the Startup Grind.
All right. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Startup Grind Sacramento. So just the pitch, but the Startup Grind actually represents over 2 million entrepreneurs globally. We're in over 600 cities in 125 countries. And the mission of Startup Grind is to give startups everywhere the education, opportunities, and access they need to build their companies. And by doing so, we have put on webinars like this which help us. One of the things that really makes us stand out, and when I first saw this at Startup Grind, my first Startup Grind event, I kind of rolled my eyes, and it's our values. But after, I really think that's what makes our difference. So we believe in making friends, not contacts. We believe in giving, not taking, and we believe in helping others before helping yourself. So for those of you that are actually entrepreneurs out there, this is a lonely journey. And but as a community, we can help each other out. So I've actually given advice to other entrepreneurs, and conversely, I found that other entrepreneurs that that are specialists in their fields can also give me advice as well. I'm going to take a pause here, and I am going to move the spotlight to Laura. And Laura, do you want to go ahead and give the Startup Sac update?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm going to be posting some links in the chat that will help you with the information that I'm providing. If you're not familiar with Startup Sac, I just posted the link to our website. And we're a resource for all the entrepreneurs in Sacramento to connect with what's available out there to help them grow their company. So I recommend that you check that out. I've been working in Sacramento startup community for almost 15 years. So if you'd like to connect with me, and if I can be of help to help you connect with someone, please feel free to reach out. I've posted my LinkedIn and my email there in the chat. So I wanted to tell you about a handful of events happening in Sacramento beyond Startup Grind. One of the events that I really encourage you to check out is called 1 Million Cups. It's the Wednesday morning founder coffee, although we do it over Zoom right now, where two startups do a 6-minute presentation followed by feedback from an audience of their peers, where usually 60 to 80% of our attendees are startup founders. And it's just a great way to meet other founders. So if you go to that link, 1millioncups.com Sacramento, it'll give you all the information you need to join us on Wednesday mornings. We open the room at 8:45, and then we get started right at 9 and end promptly at 10. So we hope you'll join us. And if you're interested in presenting at 1 Million Cups, you can find out information there at that link as well. And tomorrow morning, we just so happen to have a presenter spot open. So you can chat me up, let me know if you're interested. So then I also wanted to let you know that there is a private moderated group on Facebook called the Startup Sac Community Group. I think there's over 900 people in the group right now, all of them either entrepreneurs in the Sacramento region or people who support entrepreneurship or are interested in maybe working for a startup. And so it's just a great place to have conversations with other founders, as well as get information on what's happening in the region. And another way you can find out what's happening is to subscribe to the Sacramento Startup Digest. It's free to subscribe. You just go to the link that I posted in the chat. And then every Monday morning, you'll get an email from me of I curate the best events for startups happening primarily in the Sacramento region. But since everything's gone virtual, I sometimes include some high value events that might be happening in the Bay Area. So check that out. Then I'm just going to tell you about, I think, 3 more events, and then we'll get back to our regular programming. Tomorrow, Monique Brown, who is the co-founder of the Growth Factory, which is a new accelerator that Mark Heaney and Monique and another partner, Rick, are putting together. She is going to be teaching a class, How to Tell Your Startup Story in Your Pitch Deck. So that's online on Zoom, and you can register for that. It's free, and it's hosted by Intergrove in Elk Grove. And then on Thursday, Startup SAC, we have a monthly seminar that we call Office Hours, but the one on Thursday is going to be about user experience design, but it's not targeted at developers, it's targeted at founders so that you will understand why UX is important to your product. And oh, I lied, I think I've got 3 more. Okay, then on Friday, there's a new initiative that the SBDC has out there. And one of their first events is the Global Diversity and Investment Summit, which is happening this Friday online. So you're going to hear from a panel about diversity and inclusion, particularly in startups and investment and that sort of thing. And then 5 startups, Black-owned startups, are going to present, and one of them will win a prize. And then this is a plan ahead to next week. Startup happy hour, which is hosted by the Carlson Center at Sac State, as well as Startup Sac. We have a panel of female founders who recently scored seed funding. It's going to be moderated by Cheryl Beninga, who is also the co-director of Fourth Wave, which is an accelerator for women-led technology companies. So she's also going to be talking about how to apply for the upcoming cohort of Fourth Wave. So I hope you'll attend that. So that's all I've got for you now. So thank you for listening, and I hope to see you at some of these other exciting founder events happening in Sacramento.
So during our presentation, we like to take a few minutes to give an opportunity to pitch. And Michael Pierce was actually at the last minute. Michael, thank you he's the CEO of Best Life. And at the last minute, he's coming in to do an elevator pitch for us. So I'd like to welcome Michael. And Michael, do you have any slides you want to share or anything? Oh, you're muted, Michael.
Okay, I get so excited I forget that no one can hear me. So, well, first I want to say, thank you for inviting me, Mr. Doss. I appreciate being here with this group, and it's just very inspirational to see what's happening in Sacramento. I lived in Sacramento for 30 years, and I live in Elk Grove, very near Elk Grove. And it's exciting to me to have created a company that is now being viewed as a startup. Did you want me to go ahead, Rich, right now and do my little 3 or 4 minute pitch?
Yeah, if you have the slide deck, you can even share your screen.
Well, actually, I did prepare a slide deck. All I have is a screen of my website, okay, which is basically telling stories. So today I'm a storyteller, if that's okay, in terms of communicating who we are, what we're doing. And I'm not real good at the technical parts of this. My partner, the other Mr. Doss, is supposed to be joining us today. And so I know that he had slides and stuff. Oh, is Jyoti here?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I don't see him. Okay, so this is where, Jyoti, maybe you could share the screen and look at just our website. I think scroll down on the website as I talk, but
you have to stop sharing your screen.
Okay. Let me stop sharing. And all right, I'm stopping sharing. All right, Jyoti, go ahead.
If he's listening. Or Michael, you could share your screen.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll share my screen.
Oh, Jody's got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're going to see at the top, we're redesigning, but right at there's our company. And I want to thank Jyoti for being here also and inviting me to this group. I'm Michael Pierce. I'm the founder of Best Life. I've been an estate planning special needs attorney for the past 25 years. And during that time, I've worked with thousands of families who have children with disabilities, Down syndrome, autism, CP, every type of disability. I've worked with thousands of these people. And during the course of that time, I've drafted thousands of what we call estate plans, which are legal documents. trusts and conservatorships, things like that. And what I realized that these parents needed more than just a legal document. They needed a way to let other people know about their child's personal care, the child's likes, dislikes, the child's life story. Okay. And there was nothing out there that allowed them to do that. So I created Best. We bootstrapped it. My wife and I, with our own money, we hired some programmers and put this concept into reality in an app called Vest. Okay. And Vest is in existence right now. Vest is a digital dynamic storyteller for people who can't tell their own story. And the way I want to convey what it really means is this. Just everybody in this meeting, just take a minute, maybe even close your eyes and think about, from this moment forward, you cannot talk. You can't communicate in any reasonable manner with anybody. You can't make your own medical decisions. You cannot prepare a meal. You can't plan for the future, drive a car. And you've been that way since 3 years old, and you're going to be that way till age 83. But you're an individual with likes and dislikes and all the personality traits of anybody else, but you're unable to communicate that story. And so what I realized for these parents is that the individual needs the way to have their story be told to others. Every life has a story. We all tell our own, but we are able to bring our story wherever we go. So Laura, if you move to Montana, you bring your story with you and you set up all your supports for what you need by communicating and set up your story. But if you're an individual with disabilities, your story doesn't travel well unless someone else tells it, and it doesn't travel at all. And so what we found is that based on this notion that if we think about the individual and their life story, that I created this app that allows that story to be told so the story can go with the individual for the rest of their life. The problem is that out there in the marketplace, there are solutions for helping parents navigate with special needs, but the problem is there are set point solutions where if you have a child with disabilities, you're going to bring your child to school. Well, the school has their system for providing education. Then you bring your child to a day program when they're 18 to 20. Well, that day program is going to have their solutions. And then you're going to bring your child to residential care, job training, and each one of these places has their own software solution. And it's a big business. There's $94 billion a year being spent on providing this system of care and support. But this child is bounced around from system to system. And in the process, the individual life story gets lost. And if the individual leaves that program, all that data stays there. And if they go out someplace else, they have to basically start over. And as long as the parent is there helping navigate through, it works. But as soon as the parent becomes disabled or dies, it all falls apart. And then you see people in their 40s and 50s who are basically being manipulated by these various companies. We call it benign. Of course, everybody's got the best of intent, but there was never a way to really bring through that person's personality and let that person bring their life story with them throughout life. But Vest does that. Vest solves that problem. So in essence, we like to call it a digital and dynamic storyteller for people who can't tell their own. Now, the marketplace is huge. There's millions of individuals, tens of millions of individuals in the United States who can't tell their own story. And there are thousands and thousands of providers who provide these services and supports for these individuals. And there's billions of dollars being spent. And the key to this is what got me most excited when I did this is that I realized that the need for this life story is the same, whatever culture, doesn't matter what ethnic background you are, where you live, where you are in the world, that need to provide this life story is there. So it has universal application. That's not just a local thing, because of course, disability doesn't recognize boundaries. Okay, disability is worldwide. The opportunity out there is huge right now for us, and the timing is perfect. Now, Laura, you held up that coffee mug earlier, right? Can you hold it up again? If anybody can see it. What does it say?
Reinvent.
Now, here's what's really exciting, and this is what got Jyoti really excited. Because right now, I built Vest 5 years ago, and we've been selling to parents. We have thousands of people who signed up for Vest Parents. It's a subscription. SAS parents are paying us $40 a year for the app, okay? But just this year, well, actually 5 years ago, a federal law was passed that compels all service providers, and the exact language is to reinvent their program, their service delivery system. It's right there. And when I saw you hold up that mug, I go, oh, Laura's doing my pitch for me. But I have a federal law that was passed that says providers, you who are spending this $90 billion a year, you must reinvent your programs. You must stop doing it the old way, which is this touch point, right? The person has to go here, here, and everything's different every time. Stop that. You need to provide a universal approach called person-centered planning that focuses on the individual so that their long-term benefit and health and welfare is taken into account, not just the efficiency of running your support business. Because it was the efficiency of software programmers and business administrators that turned this care out into more of a business system. And so a federal law was passed to say we don't do that. We don't park these people in a big room and process them. They have to get out in the community. And Jyoti will tell you later as we talk how inspiring it is, because we've got VEST, which is perfectly positioned for person-centered planning. And now we have a federal law that says you must do this, that you must do VEST, but you must do something very similar to VEST. And the beauty is no one else does it this way. We're the only company that does person-centered planning truly. So we're very excited about that. So the opportunity is huge. We've got a government mandate that says these companies have to reinvent, and they're looking for a way to reinvent. So what we did when COVID hit is we built a platform for businesses, these providers, to use VEST. We got it running in a hurry, and they're using VEST to reinvent their programs because they must. And the traditional software companies out there are still doing, list-driven software, business management software, even though the law says you can't run a program that way anymore. So we're well positioned. And what we're in a position to do right now is we're seeking about $1 million in funding to fuel our growth. Because frankly, we're having a hard time keeping up with the demand right now. Our business people are coming to us doing demos. We have people do a demo and they sign up less than 24 hours later. And I'm going down to 3 companies this week in the Bay Area, getting them onboarding because they're reopening after COVID and they need to have this new system in place. So it's wonderful, but it's painful, right? Because I have all this opportunity and we've got limited ability with our current staff and funding to reach these people. Bottom line, we're having a hard time keeping up with the demand right now. So our timing is perfect. We've got traction. We've got, I believe, in our definition, a perfect product market fit because the demand is huge and people are signing up. So it's my pleasure to do this brief pitch to you, and I would be happy to answer any questions. And I really appreciate this opportunity. Next time I'll have slides, okay? And Laura's mug will be at the beginning of it, okay? All right, so thank you all very much. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Michael. That was really interesting.
Thanks, Michael.
Yes, you're welcome. I'm always excited to talk about VEST. I could do it for 3 hours if you wanted me to. So thank you.
So I'm hold on. I'm gonna go over. Let me remove Spotlight. Okay. So I'm just gonna go over some quick housekeeping. So during the presentation, we just asked that you keep yourself muted. If you have a question during the presentation, please type in the chat, and Laura or myself will try to figure out when to interject the question. And during the Q&A session, just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. This presentation is being recorded. So first off, I'd like to introduce Jyoti. Jyoti is a co-founder at Best Life, and he's actually been an integral part of the community. He's, when I first met Jyoti, I think you were at Intel, and then he's been an advisor or he was actually executive director for the Carlson Center, and then he's prior to working at Best Life, I think he has his own company that's helping startups figure out their market fit. And then this is a rare opportunity where we actually have a father-son presentation. I also like to introduce Sabya. Sabya is a partner in Mona Ventures. I think I've known Sabya for, 5 or 6 years now. And he's been an integral part of the startup scene here in Sacramento. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And then I'm going to move the spotlight. I'm going to remove the spotlight from us. And move the spotlight from Laura. And let's see, spotlight for Jyoti. And all All right, there you guys go. So go ahead and present.
Oh, are you speaking, Jyoti? I can't hear you if you were.
Yeah, I think Jyoti, you're muted.
We can't hear you.
He doesn't
Are you
appear to be muted. It looks like it's a technical issue.
Ah, that is Larry.
He needs a vest.
We could hear him earlier when we did the check. So maybe, Jody, you need to
Sabya,
disconnect your ear pods and reconnect them or something.
Or just go, yeah.
How about now? Can you hear me?
Sabya,
Yeah, we can hear
no,
you now.
that works.
Okay. So no, I wasn't muted. I was just my AirPods wasn't picking up for some reason. I really appreciate the opportunity. Rich, thanks for the intro. I wanted to start by thanking Sabya to agree to present with me because he's one of the reasons why I am in startups. I was with Intel for a very long time, and I just always wanted to do startups, and I got an opportunity because my son was doing startups. He was funding startups and things like that. So I'm going to share my screens and get going real quick, and we'll get into some intro later on. Can you guys see my presentation? Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Great. All right. So our topic is growing your startup from product to revenue. I focus on product. I try to grow, and Sabya comes from the side of VCs. So it's a good topic to talk about, having a marketing ops growth perspective, as well as having a perspective from how do we get funded and do explosive growth. So when we came together, I just was excited that we can talk about this from different perspectives. And so we basically put a agenda together here, which is a skeleton, but we're extremely flexible on the fly. So we'll do a quick round of intros, go through a little level setting on the startup lifecycle. I'll go a little bit deeper into a topic which is not normally covered, product channel fit, and that's kind of what will be mostly the focus, and talk about strategy for growth, and discuss a little bit about growth marketing, what it is, and there's a lot of talk going on, so just level set on that, and then talk about analytics metrics to measure for success. And that section, Sabya would be bringing in which metrics attract investment and what can we do differently now to get funded sooner than before. With that roadmap, I think Rich already gave my introduction. The only thing I wanted to say is I'm very proud of Carlson Center, what they're doing, very proud of what's happening in the Sacramento region. Some of the people helped me to stay here, and they are part of this ecosystem building, including Moneta Ventures. And it's just a phenomenal place to start your venture and grow it. Things like Startup Sac and all the resources that we have in the community is phenomenal. My 25 years of corporate career, I can describe it in few sentences, but the last 6 years of startup, I'll probably talk for an hour. So it's an exciting time to be here.
Cool. Thanks. It's the first time me and my dad are doing something like this, so I'm pretty excited. I've met many of you all on this call before, a lot of familiar names, but I'm one of the partners at Moneta Ventures. We're early stage venture capital firm here in Folsom, investing in seed and Series A startups. Been with the firm since pretty much day one, 7 years last month. And the bulk of our investments have been here in the Sacramento region, which has been awesome. About $110 million under management now, and over 30 companies, I think 35 now, that we've invested in. I specifically have developed a focus area within video, media, advertising, and fintech, just based on the boards I sit on and the companies I work with within the firm. And our entire MO is not just to provide capital, but really get in deep and help operationally across sales, marketing, and product, as well as helping these companies scale past, raise funds for the next stage, and grow. I joined Moneta right out of Berkeley. I got a chance to work with the founders at their previous ventures, and was lucky enough to join them pretty much on day one, right out of Cal, and been here since. So that's just a brief background on us, and so we can move into the actual presentation.
And since Sabya and I will be covering only a very small section of the startup life cycle, because it's a pretty, the product to revenue is a pretty big context, and we wanted to focus on a few things that is actionable. So we'll be introducing some topics which are, or we're talking about some of the topics which are still evolving in the startup space. So we wanted to do a quick level setting on the scope and context of this presentation, and then I just wanted to say that, as I said, impromptu questioning Q&A will be the best way to dig into the insights. We have quite a few slides to share, and to just set in the context from an idea that we are pursuing to solve a real life problem, all the way to scaling a full-fledged business around it. A venture will typically go through a few evolutionary milestones that we know, and this is represented in many different types of curves or definitions by different authors. You'll see that either with a organizational lifecycle model, or a design thinking model, or a lean startup model, which most of you should be familiar with, and not to worry about it, because we are just painting a picture, and it just doesn't matter what method you're familiar with. It's just a context, and at such a early stage and such a high level, they almost mean the same thing. The steps are almost the same, and that's because it's a summarization of all the ideas or the methods that people have gone through before us, all the evangelists and the founders that came before us. And thanks to them, we now know a lot about each of these stages, and we can optimize based on that learning or empirical experiences that they've had. So what we will do is, we know the devil is in the detail. So having this high level presentation talking about where it goes, we can find a lot of that in, a lot of material is there, but we want to go into some of the specifics into this. So we will go a little bit deeper into this as we talk about the context. We would, from the stage when a venture has established a proper product market fit and ready to set up a repeatable and dependable growth engine, and go all the way to the stage to bring in institutional investment, the one thing that is constant is growth. And it's not growth as we know it, more sales, more customers, not just that, it's holistic growth. We hear a lot about product market fit, which we'll touch briefly. We don't hear a lot about problem solution fit, which should be talked about. We don't hear a lot about product. We hear a lot about product market fit, but we don't hear a lot about product channel fit, which is a very good opportunity to make a difference at the moment. And that's kind of what we are going to primarily focus on in this presentation, because we find a solution, we build a prototype or something like that, or we can call it MVP or a prototype or something to demonstrate, and then we go into product market fit. And then once the product market fit is done, we look for angel investors to bring in and help us fund, and then we move on to growing the company. So oftentimes this particular stage is kind of missed, and there are some opportunities here that we can talk about. But before we go deep into it, I just wanted to, since problem solution fit and product market fit are kind of out of scope, I just wanted to do a quick level setting so that we are all on the same page and singing from the same baseline, right? By the time we're done with problem solution fit, we would have already determined with confidence that we are solving a real, I'll take Michael's favorite term here, or that we are solving a real fire in the hair type of a problem, and our customers are ready to pay us for the solution, right? So that's something we have determined with reasonable confidence in this stage. And from our lean startup or business model canvas, or whatever model that you have put a business model into, we would have articulated and market tested the unique value proposition that clearly describes what is the exclusive offer that we are making for our customers, right? What is our offer? How is it unique? How is it different? How is it interesting? How is it attractive? Those kind of things. And that definition is very important for us to use at the subsequent stage. That's why I'm calling them out. There's a lot more comes out of it, but I'm just calling out three things. Market tested unique value proposition, very well defined customer segment and personas, which we do that in the business level, business model canvas or lean canvas early in the time, and we need that research now. And anything that we have researched at the time in terms of channels, how do we get to the customers? And those data will be very useful in our product channel fit exercise and growing the business. So we want to take that from there. So this is just saying what problem solution fit, how is it going to help us in the later stage? And if you look at the next stage, which is, in my opinion, one of the most important stage in probably the most important stage in the evolution of a early stage startup, is product market fit. And for that reason, we hear a lot about it, lot being said about this particular stage. A lot of publications by many authors, by many thinkers. But one thing I want to point out here is that product market fit is a very difficult exercise to do. It's more important is that even knowing when we have reached it. So this is a topic outside of the conversation, but I wanted to call out that it is a big deal, and we can come back and talk about it at a later point in time. But there are a few things that comes out of here which is extremely important for the next stage. In this stage, we would have figured out that we have top line growth. And very important, that rate of growth is extremely important to know what rate we are growing during this time when we are trying to figure out. We have retention, good retention. Like I don't want to speak for a one size fit all metric, but there is good retention, and we have active usage of the platform. At least those three things we have established. And if those three things are kind of in a good, healthy space, we can say we are reaching product market fit. And sometimes it's very clear, sometimes it's absolutely not clear, and most of the time you're in the middle. But that's because the market is moving, and it's a moving target. So I call it's a continuous process. Product market fit is a continuous process that stays throughout the life of growing the startup. And but what is important from this stage for going into product channel fit is, once we've figured out that we are at a good fit from a product market point of view, then we need to go into really launching the marketing efforts to grow. And I'm again simplifying this, because this is more of a context to say, and it's not too scholarly or deep as we think about it, because I'm an engineer coming from Intel, having grown Intel businesses. When I came into startup, my first question that I was asked is that, do you know how you can, have you ever dealt with running out of payroll, not making payroll? I didn't even understand the question. So I learned about startups from ground up, and I analyzed this. And when I look at it at the end of the day, it's actually extremely simple. And a lot of these things can be done very inexpensively than what people have thought about. So some of these things I'll be saying is probably my creation to some extent, and some of it is learning from everybody else. And from this stage, we want three things: market tested messaging, feature set priority, what is actually making us tick. And if you have figured out the keyword that describes it, or the content core, what people are reading about in your audience, those three things will be very useful in the next phase. With that, we can go into product channel fit. So in case of a product channel fit, I'm sorry, this slide probably got messed up a little bit here. Somehow got the wrong slide, but let me talk to it, right? So from the product market fit exercise, we are getting to a point where we want to figure out what are the channels we use to communicate with our customers. That's why I said, we need the channels, and what are we communicating with them? And what happens at this stage, a lot of founders either don't have documented strategy, or they simply go into saying, oh, it's too much, it'll take a lot of money, or I don't need to put it in place. And they don't have a documented strategy for that. They don't even try to do it on their own. They wait for some big money to come in, so they want to do it on their own. My recommendation at this stage is that we want to explore. It's a lot easier than it sounds. And I have done it for a dozen startups that I have advised. And we are doing it for all the startups that I'm part of right now. And by just doing it on our own, getting it done early, setting up the channel, setting up a strategy, we are getting a head start as to what we are going to learn from those steps. So with that, I just wanted, Sabya, you want to shed some light on the previous stage and walk us through this part?
Yeah, if you need to go back one slide first. So I know that the bullets, bullets here, I might have forgotten to add them in here, but in essence, right, as a VC, we always talk about product market fit, finding someone that's willing to pay for what it is you want to sell. That's, a proven, tested thing. In most presentations I do listen to anywhere, that product channel fit piece is really missing. That comes later. Usually people don't think about it at the, pre-seed, seed stage. But not only have we found who's willing to pay for what we want to sell, but we found how we're going to reach them with repeatable success. So if we go to the next slide, talking about why that's important. So before that, what happened to venture overall? This is a good prelude to the next piece of it. Angel investors and seed funds have gone further downstream in terms of where they're looking for deals. Even, we're part of the SAC Angels here, and a lot of times what's traditionally thought of as an angel deal now might have been a seed deal in the past. We're looking for traction, revenue, growth of things that you wouldn't usually think about from angel investing in the past, right? So the average startup, not the tier one startup that is able to go raise 20 million pre-seed round just because they're absolutely phenomenal, top of the 1% type company. But most startups that begin are having lack of access to capital from these super early stage sources that they used to have access to. They're looking to be more de-risked before these investors talk to them. So what are some proxy metrics for revenue or growth that you can't show that early on? We're going to cover some of those proxy metrics later, but those proxy metrics, whether it's some kind of traction, user growth, et cetera, that show a product and channel fit, are becoming important ways for these investors to pretty much make a bet earlier on these companies compared to where they might be today. So if we go on to the next slide, we saw that from a marketing viewpoint, this is, the problem, solution, product, market. And this slide is one I've created before, and it usually has just those two and then scaling or growth. And we know that, early on, people are building this on their own. Michael talked about, bootstrapping this all the way from the beginning to getting through the first few, users at VestLife. Once you get to some initial product market fit, you might have some beta customers, et cetera. Friends and family might be interested. Nowadays, angels who would usually come in at that product market fit standpoint are maybe looking for some revenue, some more traction a little bit down the road. And VCs are, able to look even farther down the road from when they were before. So how do we shift that a little bit? If we're an early stage company, we can't just say there is no access to capital. We got to find a way to make ourselves show some traction if we can't show revenue, show our traction if we can't show pure user growth right off the bat. And that's where I think this product channel fit piece of it comes into it. So if you click on the next slide, what if we focus on as a startup to be able to pull product channel fit as a new milestone, right? And I'll define this my own way, which pretty much says on a shoestring budget, we have found that we can reach our, or if we go back, don't go to that slide yet. On a shoestring budget, we've realized that as a company that's selling software to X type of customer, we can reach them on LinkedIn using this type of content, and it's really inexpensive, and we can do it over and over again. And we found that that is the channel that works for us. We've put some money into it. So, hey, VCs, check it out. This is repeatable. This is something that we can do over and over again. So since we've shown you that this gains traction, if you give us money, we can probably go and do something with it. That's what I mean by product channel fit, not just broad product market fit. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is what are those marketing tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call it, that can enable us to find that channel fit to be able to get investment and interest from institutional investors earlier than you would be otherwise. So we'll move on to the next piece of it. So before I hand it back to my dad, typically a common framework that we see for startups that are putting together their, marketing framework, go-to-market plan is putting together product and marketing together, aligned towards your company growth roadmap. Most people are going to raise money first, build their product, go to market, and eventually they'll align marketing with that at some point in the future. What we're talking about here is from the very get-go is ensuring that your marketing strategy, your product development strategy are hand in hand and moving forward at the same time and constantly iterating over and over again. And that's going to be kind of a theme of what we're talking about. So I'll hand it back to you, Deb.
And very right, actually, and in my experience, I often see startups start working with product and marketing as a separate activity, as if they're different. They start thinking about marketing at a certain stage, and till they realize that, okay, the two need to go hand in hand. So when I started analyzing all the startups, because I was coming in, as I said, from a big company perspective, I realized we need a simple framework to keep both of them aligned. And aligning the product and marketing roadmaps to a strategic growth roadmap, which is your, the founder's vision for this, ensures that the leadership direction is aligned to the entire venture at this time, which are basically the two big part of the venture, marketing or growing and product development. And it also creates an organization of a lot of collaboration between the two. They collaborate and they work together. The issue there is that a lot of times founders would say, I don't have things documented. I know it's in my head. I haven't documented the strategy at that point in time, and they're having so much to do. They don't get the time to document it, because it might have started as a small exercise and gone into a bigger venture by that time. And not having that documented, it makes it difficult to communicate exactly what it is. So just trust me, the value of communication at that time is so significant at these stages, even if it's a 5 to 10 person team. And so that's the first thing is, this simple model, very simple exercise is to put it down, what we know and what we want to do, right? As a founder and co-founder, we document, these are the things we want to do. And then for growth, we are taking a product to the market. So we need to have a defined go-to-market strategy, which will essentially describe the approach we're going to take a product to the market, which would have a business plan, outline the target audience, the value prop, and all that stuff. And this will include the topic we're talking about. And Sabya wants to reflect on this as how we can do this to pull back our opportunity to get invested, get fund raised early, is the channel strategy. This is something most startup founders think it's too much to do. And I felt the same way the very first time I did it. Oh, I need a CMO. I need a fractional CMO. I need 5 people doing, someone doing digital marketing, someone doing email marketing, someone doing something else. I don't know how to do it myself, but I need to hire all these people to do it. And that's actually is a lot easier than you will see that it's a lot easier. It will also include your overall marketing strategy and sales strategy in the go-to-market plan. But just documenting and putting that in place is a big step up if you are not already doing it. If you're documented and doing it, you're doing the right thing already. And the next thing would be, once you have the plan, it makes it a lot easier to set up the funnel. So the very next step would be, setting up the funnel and how do we measure success in the funnel, right? And so now to put it in a broader perspective, now we have the vision that is translated into a roadmap, right? At least midterm roadmap. And what the product team is doing, the marketing team needs to know why are they doing it. Are you building the product for the sake of building the solution? Or are you building it to really help people and truly solve a real life business problem? And that gets validated by having collaboration between marketing. With marketing, people would listen to, I'm a product guy from Intel. So and I'm passionate about development, passionate about product, but I also have a business hat because, I also own P&L, and now it is all the more so that you need to listen to the business reason for it, and having them together and establishing that you can do it manually, but this is a much easier process. Having a simple way to describe it and communicate. Marketing roadmap and product roadmap go hand in hand. And then at that stage, we define our channel and create a growth machine. And this growth machine, when we talk about, and in fact, I've been told, don't use that word because people are intimidated by the growth engine, growth machine, big thing that you're going to create. It's actually what we are going to create in early stage is a very simple framework. We will start with the basics and start learning. But the key thing about this particular approach is that we do something. We put it out there. We have a campaign we planned. We just put it out there. Even without skilled personnel, we can do it. I'm running an email campaign. I put it out there. I'm able to measure the data and then come back to the drawing board. Okay, how did it work? Did they get my message? Were there any opens? Were there any clicks? And then learn from that. And this builds three things. Number one, gets us a head start. Number two, it allows us to experiment. And the third and most important thing, it sends a message to the organization that it's okay to fail. We will fail 50 times, but we'll come back and find the next one. Because this is one thing that is constant in a startup is we will be failing multiple times. So how do we make those, blast radius of these failures smaller? By defining smaller experiments. We're not going to revamp the whole website and put it out there saying, okay, let's see how it works. No, let's change it, continuously improve it. And that culture gets set. And second thing is the collaboration between the two teams gets set. So those are the two high level things that get set. So in terms of how do we do it at this point, I think we need to talk about some of the concepts. But when you look at this picture, let me ask a question and you can answer in the chat if you want. Does this sound familiar? Does it look very familiar with something else that you would have seen as you have built your startups? In fact, it is exact same approach that lean startup method does for product. That you put something, you build something, put it out there, measure its effectiveness, come back and keep doing it. Don't wait in your stealth phase to create something fancy and put it out there in the market when then you realize, oh, I missed the mark by a big mile and the customer don't really like it. And then you run out of money, you run out of runway to do it. So that's in the product side. But what this model has done is also created a similar framework. So they can be two cogs going in a very concerted and very lockstep manner. Product marketing goes together, and they're also using the similar kind of tools. You can use Atlassian tools for the same thing that product does. You can use the same tools here for marketing as well. So we'll go a little bit into it, but we are going to use the term growth hacking in this next part. So let me just introduce that very, very at a high level. Growth marketing, also known as growth marketing, which is what I prefer. I'm not a big fan of growth hacking anymore because it kind of communicates an idea of it's a hat trick kind of, it's trick and, you just put something there, get a growth hacker and it'll solve my problem of growing the business. That's kind of how it became. The initial author, Son Ellis, didn't mean that way, but it has become that way. So let's call growth marketing. And it typically involves defining and executing experiments to drive growth. And to do that, it's not just purely a marketing exercise. Growth marketing is not marketing. It uses creative marketing big time. It uses the foundation of marketing completely, but it also involves technology, your technology team. It involves data and analytics. And those are, they have to work all in unison for this to work. And that's why it's a collaborative effort between the three. And that's why it is a little difficult to do. But in my experience, it is a good thing because an early stage startup with 5 to 15 members, they are fairly cohesive. It brings them together, what we are doing. It gives the perspective of business to the marketing people. It gives a very good perspective to the product side and technology side of things, how to build something for the market. And the best thing is you see that in data. If you put some basic analytics in place, you see that in data. So it's very powerful. Growth hacking is extremely powerful, but we should just remember that it is a strategic way to do it. It's not a tactic that you put, oh, I'm going to have a guerrilla marketing tactic, and that's what growth hacking is. I'll just paint a mural on the wall and that goes viral. It doesn't happen, right? It doesn't happen that way, and that shouldn't be the way to take away. It's basically what we are trying to do is bring more power and focus to do it. And one important element here is that doing this in today's world is a lot easier than it was before. We didn't have the tools we need to collect the data, to measure the progress. So it's a lot easier. And secondly, outbound marketing in today's world is almost dead, right? It takes a lot of money to do it. And this one we can do it almost without a real budget, right? So it's it's a good and bad. I mean, outbound marketing is not effective, so we cannot just go on the radio, on the TV, and put a lot of money to make it work. It is not going to work. So we have to use inbound marketing, and that is we are getting forced to do it. And this method fits very well to inbound marketing. So it's a perfect time to do it. And the good news that we want to share here is that it can be done with a much lower budget than before. We said a lot of things, and we'll go into some of the specifics. But at this time, Rich, if it's okay, we'll pause here for any questions, because we just want to make sure that we are having the audience and then we are communicating with them based on where they're going and where they're heading in terms of what we're talking about here.
So there's two questions in the chat. One of them is, will the deck be available afterwards?
Yes.
And then
yes.
Michael Pierce has a question. Do you want to ask that, Michael?
Sure. When we're talking to investors and we use growth hacking and experimentation, it sounds tentative. And I would think investors would want to know that we're onto something certain. So at what point and how deep do you go in the pitch to talk about our growth hacking endeavors without sounding like we're just scrambling around trying to learn what we're doing?
Sabya, you want to take that?
That's a question for you. How deep do you go in the marketing strategy in a pitch?
Sabya, you want to take that? It's for me.
Oh, sorry. No. I was my mic was
Oh.
on mute here. Sorry.
Okay.
I was saying that the marketing strategy for sure is a huge focus area at this stage, because we don't have. I was talking about proxy metrics earlier. We don't really have a huge idea of pure traction or hard metrics. So we want to understand what success you've had with marketing strategies, creative marketing strategies, how you've been lean in terms of using dollars to drive some form of growth. Like my dad was mentioning, I think growth hacking as a term might not be what gets used, because you called it out. It's not necessarily going to hit everyone's ears the same way. So definitely need to focus on, what are the creative marketing strategies we've used and how has that been unique to our business to some degree. And then from there, delving into that and why pouring more dollars into those same strategies can yield outsized results are typically what investors are going to want to hear at this stage. I think, at that kind of pre-seed seed stage, Michael.
And also one thing from a metric point of view, I would also want to, I would like to point out that, at this stage, sometimes we are just trying to figure out traction, right? We are not really haven't gotten to growth, but like the proxy metrics Sabya talked about, but we can show glimpse of the metrics about what is our top line growth, right? And how is our marketing effort directly contributing to that. Let me use an example. Like say we want to get to a rate of having X percentage of customers growth every month, and we can show some metric. I don't know, Sabya, if this is something that you go down to that level of detail in the evaluation or not, but let me just suggest something that when we look at, okay, this many customers we want to close, that means I need to have this many interactions with the customer, which will translate with this many touch points or this many steps I want to get to these many demos with the customer. And if you are measuring that and you can say this is the rate of growth, and using that you have attended a certain rate of growth, then the VCs will look at, oh, your current rate of growth is consistent and you're predicting X percentage growth in your projection, and that will be a good indicator of the health of the organization. Is that something that, Sabya, you see or you evaluate when you're looking at applications at this stage?
Yeah, kind of. There's never any substitute for revenue. That's just a given for most investors at the seed plus stage. I got right. But this is something that can be done to assist and bridge that gap. So if you're coming at it by saying, hey, we actually have no idea how we're going to take this to market, but we have 3 people that are looking to purchase our software solution, as opposed to we've gotten 3 customers, this is exactly how, and we've built our pipeline and the funnel based on the same strategy that's been proven a few times over. Those 2 are very different stories, and we're going to look at this one much more favorably. So it's not a complete proxy for it, but it does, help a lot. I think Ernest has his hand raised here. Ernest, did you have a question?
I do. Thank you, gentlemen, and great presentation. I wanted to ask you, you talk about marketing. How does the sales and sales staffing factor into this? I assume initially it's probably the founders and a small handful of people that are doing everything from soup to nuts, from development to marketing to sales. But as you begin to map out your strategy and you're going through these growth cycles and failure cycles, some guidance on when to bring in sellers, I assume it's when you've gone beyond your capacity of time, but tell me more about those thoughts and when that factors in.
Maybe I can touch this on the marketing side. Sabya, you can talk about your experience with growing because they get going with the money that they get and they hire sales organization and entire organization at the time. But in the early stages, we are doing it like in my venture, in our venture, Michael and I actually do the selling right now, and but we also do marketing together. And if I have to say that, besides my own personal experience, one of the things that is evolving in the market is kind of bridging this marketing and sales divide a little bit, in the sense using marketing to do demand gen, which is almost doing the sales qualification at the marketing stages. By the middle of the funnel, you have sales qualifications done early. So when the salespeople come in, they will actually be a lot more effective because you have been nurturing them much earlier than they become your prospect, right? So by doing that,
leads. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you get a lot more warmer lead. Maybe it's not a hot lead yet, but it's a lot more warmer than what we were used to before. But then I think if you're making revenue and you are financially independent, you can go higher. But I would like to leave that to Sabya because he builds that team for his portfolio companies. So Sabya, you probably have a much better answer for that.
No, I mean, I think it depends on the type of sale. So if you are, it's a high ASP, high touch B2B sale, it's going to be a, founder led inside sale for quite some time, just because of the longer sales cycle and the fact that what it is you're selling. At that point, these marketing strategies go hand in hand because you don't want to hire sales ops and SDRs to be building that top of the funnel. And so these type of strategies have a very low cost approach to driving some of those warm leads and getting to either that demo or intro through some of these tactics. So for the smaller, more SMB sale, self-serve, smaller dollar value pieces of it, spending more on these marketing strategies early on are going to be helpful because the amount of hours you spend for the dollars generated in revenue is going to be really upside down. And so I do think it does kind of depend on that business model. From growing past the initial founder sale aspect of it, that's a challenge for any business is who are those first few hires. You almost have to find a mini me after you've done that initial founder sale, and they become the next iteration of what you were doing as an individual. And that's going to be, a top tier BDR. But I'd say for the early stages, and I've worked with a few companies that have maintained the founder sale mentality through, $500,000 in revenue. And, these were companies that were, selling $20,000, $30,000 a year type annual contracts, working with large firms. And it was the two founders selling it, and they didn't bring on their first real, BDRs and AEs until after the fact. Some of it was creative marketing and some of it was just them hustling. So it does vary, but I think it does really depend on the type of sale as well, Ernest.
Thank you.
That's a great question, Ernest. Thank you for that. And
There's another question
okay.
from David. It's in the chat. David, I don't know if you want to, he's on the phone. So let me ask it for him. He wants to know, he says, you talked about building channels when a company has 5 to 15 employees. What is your view on getting funding to get a second or third employee? Is that angel, VC, savings, ?
Great question. I think it's a funding question. So I would like to refer to Sabya, but I just wanted to say one small thing here is that depending on what is the venture, you can also build with one employee, you can still build channels. And actually, I have done that in the past in one of the ventures. It's not pretty. It takes 80-hour weeks become longer, but it's possible. But if you have to expand the team, it's a purely funding question. So Sabya, would you have a perspective on this? Are you on mute?
Yep. No, when it comes to the channel building from a marketing standpoint, David, if that's what you were asking about, I would totally agree with what my dad said in terms of should be, easily doable at the early stage. There's just so much out there now that will let you build a lot of that, even as a solo founder, before having, a big operations team to work on the marketing side of things. And I think we'll touch on some of those tools in just a bit. But in terms of just to building out a team, in terms of bringing on employees outside of the scope of this marketing structure, I think a lot more of that has to do with resources and network you have, within your close group to be able to get some small seed funding, to have your initial first or second, employee, semi co-founder type folks, be working with you on an equity basis, so on and so forth. And like Laura mentioned, friends and family rounds of funding, which, obviously not possible for many individuals, but if that is an option, great. Having, your initial employees being on a compensated on an equity basis is another portion of it. But no, after that is definitely going out for the angel and VC funding. But that's even more so why this initial marketing exercise, getting some of the basics figured out, helps let VCs kind of take you seriously at that point.
You mentioned co-founders. I think that's a important aspect to look at. Having co-founders they will bring in skills of different type. Maybe if you're a product and business person, then looking for a marketing, a non-technical marketing founder, or if you are a marketing person looking for the tech founder to do it, that would be another way to go about it. If friends and family or friends and fools money is not available at that point in time. All right. So with that, for interest of time, I'll probably, this is going to the details. Please pause me. I have a tendency to speak really fast, and Sabya tells me slow down that, and I'll try to cover my part a little faster. But if I skip anything, please raise your hand. I will slow down. Foundational channels for your marketing funnel. Again, going back to David's question earlier, that if we have 4 or 5 people to do it, we cannot build a pretty foundation. It's all the bells and whistles. But I'm professing that we should start doing it sooner. That's because what Sabya said, like it's a lot easier to do these days than it was before. We have free tools available to do analytics. I remember 15 years ago, when I was at Intel, we used to pay arm and a leg for that. And just because Intel had a lot of money, we didn't think twice about those, but it's not possible for a startup to do it. But today we can do that for free. We can do integration for free for analytics, which was unheard of 10, 15 years ago. And so it's not going to be pretty. We don't need to worry about that, but we do need to have a written down strategy and have a funnel defined, which is conceptually right, which is our own work, right? For this, we don't need tools. We just don't need any big business acumen experts to come in, consultants to do it. We know a typical IDA funnel is good for a business. We need to generate awareness. We need to generate interest, and then they develop some kind of they have to make a decision and take an action. Those kind of things to do that. It is not B2C. Like IDA is often associated with B2C, but it could be a B2B side of things. We basically same funnel, same model, but B2B or B2 all could be defined the exact same way. So it's a conceptual picture, and once we have that right, then we can go put the people, process, and tools to do it. And it doesn't have to be pretty if you don't have the resources, but if you have the resources, you can do it well. But my suggestion would be to kind of think through this steps of what it means to attract, what it means to convert, what it means to close the deal, and how do you keep them retained? Because remember, retention is a very important part of the metric that we're going to look at. And before we talk about the top of the funnel and then bring in a lot of people into it, we would ensure. I mean, you all would be at different, every venture will be at different stages. We need to ensure that we have the basic process figured out in the product channel fit, which means we know what to communicate to the customer. We know retention is good. The trifecta I talked about from the exit from that stage, which is, top line growth is there. We can bring customers. They're staying with us and they're actively using it. If you have that, now is the time. If you see that, it's absolutely the time to go define this funnel and bring as many people at the top of the funnel. And you will not know the exact recipe of how to convert them in the beginning, and that's okay. But don't wait till, okay, I'll bring in an expert, you will tell me how to do it, and we are done. That's not a model I will propose. The reason for that is a lot of this can be done by ourselves as founders. And secondly, there are tools available to do it for free. Sabya, you want to add anything here?
No, I think you got that there. Good.
Okay. And so just let me quickly go through each one of them and talk about some of the metrics. And I want the financial metric to come out more. So I want to just kind of quickly go through each of the processes. So let me just say, when I'm talking about marketing and channels, a lot of the publications or authors coming in talking about something new, something fine, and we get that in our feeds in the blogs. I think before we do any of that, we need to do the basic foundation. We need to have one or two channels that really work for us. If we already know email marketing is working good for us, and this is where I want to give one of my personal current example. If email marketing is working well, this is not a time for you to say, well, let me go and figure out other 50 channels that's out there, and let's see if I can also get to them. Do not change anything with that channel. Just if that is working for you, the messaging, continue with that. Because the reality is you'll not find 5 channels that work great for you. You'll find 2 or 3 channels that work well, and 1 or 2 of them will have the lion's share of the channel. But you do need to test them out over time and understand. And when you have the resources, you can do that. And when you expand, when you have the money funded at Series B level, you can totally expand that. But right now, just start scrapping. If you already know one channel is working well for me, well for you, keep going. And as you're doing that, test out a couple other channels. Set up 2-3 other channels. Like, I'm going to go to Facebook. I'm going to go to LinkedIn, any of the social media channels. I'm a consumer product. I want to go to Facebook and Instagram. Or I'm a B2B product. First, my customer do not reside in Facebook. And I know that from my Lean Canvas exercise early on, I'm going to go to LinkedIn and Twitter. Great. Or they actually read this type of content. I want to put that in place. So those are the kind of things that we need to look at this stage. So first thing to define is the conceptual channel, and then the people, process, and tools for what you're able to do. I mean, look at that. It's not just tools. It's not just the process. It's also the people. So all of that in a holistic manner, and don't overthink this. Think of simply, do I have somebody who can do this thing? If not, what are the alternatives? Can I do it by myself? And there is a ton of material to do that. One thing to keep in mind at this stage, B2B or B2C, if website is your point of conversion, which is in a lot of the cases, you're getting the leads or you're getting self-serve coming in if you're a consumer product, that is one of your biggest marketing tool. And people say, okay, I just haven't had the website cleaned up, this, that. No, it's a conversion tool, and you need to pay a lot of attention from a marketing point of view and make it a conversion tool and pay attention to all the metrics that is coming out of there. Besides your social media marketing, social media metrics, which you can get from the automation tools that's available today. Even some of them are free. Like in my startups, we use most of the free tools first, and then we go into something else. Campaign and build a campaign management system on spreadsheets or any kind of quick tool available, and then put in the analytics in place. Once you have that conceptually designed, it's very easy to do it. Okay, the sequence is wrong because I'll talk about email marketing first and then come back to it. Email marketing, one of the most effective marketing today. A lot of people say email marketing is dead. It is not. If you can get the right way to have the first party data, people have opted in to subscribe to your newsletter or subscribe to your ebook or anything that you put out there. That's the best way to go. But it's important to remember that it costs very little to really do this. So this is one of the usual suspects. It works for B2C, it works for B2B, but just knowing your audience, where they are and how do you collect the emails is the challenge. And that is a challenge that you'll face irrespective of when you start. So start early, go figure it out. And this is one thing that's very easy to set up. And the next one is content marketing. So content is king these days. The reason for that is people expect you to educate them. People expect us to educate them about things that we're talking about. And that's just the way it is right now. And some go as far as to saying every corporation in the future will be a media house. And I don't disagree with it. But as a startup, obviously you cannot be a media house. But so at this time, what do? Create as authentic content as you can and try to publish it on a regular cadence. Read the metrics, how are they being consumed and things like that. You can even do a content core exercise using keyword planning, which is very simple, to see what people are reading, what people are interested in, and what are they reading. My competitors who is doing great with content marketing, what are they reading from them, if it is there, and put this in place. This is one of the toughest one. That's why I wanted to talk about email marketing first, and digital marketing, like just setting up the social media channels, doing SEO is not difficult to set up by your own. It can be done. You may not get as good results if you bring in very high powered experts to the team, but you will learn a ton. And just start with that 1 or 2 or 3 channels. And content marketing is tough because we are not all writers, we are not all creative people. And here the expectation is not to just outsource it to somebody, they write the blog for us and do it. It has to be authentic content in today's world. In fact, Google's algorithm in 2019 December was changed to say, what is the intent behind the search? So the channel decides how you need to produce what. And in this case, how do you create article which is the intent behind the search? So to do that, it has to be just authentic. What you're doing, that comes out. So you have to figure out a way to create authentic article to create authentic article that you care about, and then you can add some keywords and do some marketing exercise to promote it properly. But and that cannot be outsourced. So even if you start a little later, it's still coming authentically from you. So it's a good idea to get started, at least dabble your feet in one type of content that you're producing. And if you have the ability to own a particular channel for content, there is no substitute for that. You'll be king. And there are many different tools available for scheduling software posts, sorry, the daily posts. You can automate some of that. Even the freer versions like Hootsuite, Buffer, or those kind of things. You get analytics from them. LinkedIn is a great place to publish your stuff. And so there is these things wasn't available in the past. I mean, if I have to syndicate a content 15 years ago, I have an agency designing it for me, and I have a PR guy figuring out where to publish it, and then a ton of money there. And so there is quite a bit of stuff that's already available. And I see in the comment from Conley about WordPress, WordPress, Wix, they all have ways to share content, So definitely, it's just start with whatever you know, okay? And I talked about content marketing, and now comes the favorite part of anything to do with growth is analytics. And as I said, 15 years ago, it would have costed a lot of money either to get a SaaS or a Tableau or something big on the front, something else doing data wrangling in the bottom, something else processing data in the middle. And I come from that world of data analytics and IoT, and I know how expensive they were. And we didn't have tools like that. Today, Google Tag Manager is free. You can tag your pages. Google Analytics is free. You can even create beautiful views. And in fact, the pictures that you're seeing are from Google Analytics that was created by my team. And if you're subscribed to HubSpot, there's an analytics tool there. Hootsuite has its own. Facebook, LinkedIn, marketing, they have their own tools available. And I'm talking about everything organic at this point in time, nothing paid. Till you have figured out, okay, now this email marketing is working really well. I need to really beef up on the number of emails I can send, how easily I can create content. And you have money, okay, go put into it. But everything I'm talking about is literally what our title said, that how do you do this without a real budget? And the people, process, and tools, all of them can be easily afforded because you are doing it as a person. The tools are available. The process is a little bit know-how if you don't know how to do it. But again, somebody is educating you. So use that resource to do it. So I said a lot here. Sabya, you want to take over from here?
Yeah. No, so yeah, we can pause for any questions here. Otherwise, I think there's 2 more slides on this. I can just cover this slide at least because there's going to be a lot of these metrics that are pulled from these dashboards and analytics tools that are very, very useful from an operational standpoint. You want to understand basic retention metrics. You want to know downloads, daily average users, monthly average users, so on and so forth. That helps you understand your own internal growth. But we don't know exactly how future investment or what VCs will care about putting money into can help drive that. So at every single stage, like I said here, improving and optimizing that spend is crucial. And so the growth hacking or marketing strategies previously that have helped you refine those channels are going to put you head and shoulders above any other company in your peer stage, just because you know how you got to those other metrics like DAUs, MAUs, so on and so forth. And I'm just personally saying this, that pre-seed and seed companies that just come to the table organized, have their Google Analytics exports, etc., put into this data room, we're just like, regardless of how amazing those analytics are, just are amazing compared to what it would have been had we not had those reports. So just being able to put this in place so that we know you're tracking it does a lot in terms of getting investors knowing you're thinking about the right things, you're approaching it the right way, so on and so forth. So it is a huge deal just to have these structures in place. So just on the next one, if I wanted to boil that down into how we look at it, at Moneta, the tagline is, so the next one. Tagline is pretty much that, right? Investors want to ensure our capital is spent optimally. And one thing we like to say is that we're going to shoot some bullets and follow up with cannonballs. So if we know that we're going to be, trying out a few different, shots on goal somewhere, right? It's LinkedIn for X, Y, or Z, Twitter for X, Y, and Z, and we spend very little dollars or even organic growth on that front. As soon as we find out what works, VCs are going to give you the big dollars and cannonballs to follow those up and repeat on that success, right? So that's really what we want to see, is that you've shot some bullets on some channels and you know that this has hit. So now let's follow it up with some big dollars. Primarily, if you're doing it over some time and you can show specifically with these metrics that you're able to reduce the cost and the spend to acquire each user you bring onto the platform over a 3-month period, because you've optimized spending on one channel for specific keywords or using specific types of content. You've found out that we can reduce the cost of an SQL or any other kind of lead by doing these certain steps. And we've improved the conversion from just getting people to the top all the way down to actually closing them, whether that's, website optimization or other things. Those sorts of improvements over time would definitely be some type of growth metric that we would track as a proxy for revenue. So that's all things that we're going to look at as we evaluate companies that aren't at that revenue stage yet. And we're going to want to track them throughout that time until we make an investment to ensure that those metrics keep improving. So, but yeah, those are some key ones from a VC standpoint. So I think that's all I had on our end. I know we have like less than 10 minutes left. I don't know if you wanted to cover anything else specific, or if folks had any other questions that we could dive into on any of these topics.
Sorry, I was on mute. No, I think we should open it for questions, and depending on that, we can bring in other slides to talk about. But we really appreciate the opportunity to come out here and Startup Grind, and thanks Rich and Laura for organizing this. This is wonderful to have these conversations. I would like folks to share their insights if they have, and or any questions that we want to answer.
Are there any more questions, folks?
I have an observation.
Go ahead.
I kind of wish I would have listened to this presentation before I did my pitch earlier today. It would have been 1,000% better. Sabya, Jyoti, this is amazing stuff for me. I often tell Jyoti, I feel like I live in a cave and I'm writing on the wall and I know what I want to say, but it's no one's listening to me. And what you've shown me is there's some science behind this. If we apply some principles, document it, and move forward, we can actually feel like it's being successful in the marketing and the content. And I love the phrase. I think, Sabya, I'd love to have a glossary from you with these nice phrases: bullets followed by cannonballs. There's no substitute for revenue. Yes, some other real great ones there. A growth machine, what we're selling, proxy metrics. That term proxy metrics just summed up something very complicated and made sense of it for us at this growth stage. So I want to thank everybody for having me here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you so much.
Alec had his hands raised.
Yeah, sorry, it looks like my video's busted, so I guess I have to go off my voice. But yeah, I was kind of curious. So, I run a DevTools-based startup. A lot of our successes come through an open source project, which forms kind of the open core of our product. I'm kind of wondering how you would advise couching those, the successful metrics that we have as an open source project as proof of product channel fit, actually, because I think there's an argument in there, especially with some of the DevRel kind of related statistics we have and how that converts into revenue. But yeah, I was kind of just curious on your guys' opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on it. So just so I understand correctly right now, that there is a connection that you have kind of, found between the two that's, that you can prove, based on the effort put on the open source side, it does lead to monetization somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is a revenue picture at the end of those open source success metrics.
Yeah, and that's definitely huge. And I think it depends on the type of investors you speak to. There's a lot that have more expertise within that space. And I think that is more of there's probably a visionary element to talking to the right VCs that understand, how massive that can be as an opportunity to bring that entire, base of users, people passionate about that project, developing on it, and how that leads to future monetization. And if you're already showing that, I think it's huge. I think at that point, the people that would buy into that product channel fit are going to be a specific group of investors that have experience in that space. And so I think that would be, you know, the first hit list before trying to make this more of a universally digestible method of monetization for just generalist VCs. And I'd kind of group myself in that group of not fully understanding the impact it can have. So for the right investors, I think that you should definitely talk about it, and it is proof of that.
Cool, thanks. Yeah.
Actually, I was going to say that exactly the type of investor, and then searching for them in that space and looking at companies that they have invested in is going to be key here. I have a personal example of that going into a deeper and newer field. It's like, when we present that to investors who are in tech but not specifically in that space, they get it, but it's okay when you see the actual metrics that monetizers come back to us, and that might take 5 years, but then you go to the right investor where they see the value and they want to get in early. There is that.
Totally.
Thank you guys. Yeah.
And looks like, should we just go ahead and wrap up? Doesn't look like there's any more questions.
There is one question from Catherine.
Okay.
It's being recorded. I think
This
it's
is
being
being
recorded.
So after I edit it, I'll post it out eventually. So I'm still backlogged in some past startup credit events, but yeah, this will be posted.
Well, no, thank
You
you,
do so
Rich
much.
and
We
Laura, for
appreciate-
putting this
appreciate
together and
everything.
for everyone showing up on the call. Appreciate it.
So I'll go ahead and wrap up. I want to thank Jyoti and Sabya for attending today. And excuse me. And then we're going to take July off. I'm going to take my kids to Disneyland. And then we'll start up in August. So thanks, everybody. And have a great week. Have a great evening. And thanks for attending today.
Yeah, great job. Thank you all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take care.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.